So I feel like for me, it's really important to use the other language. And also, for example, like it's been interesting because we're all trapped in this kind of like whatever apartment or little farm where we are. But like I've been like reading these lucid dreams books that I can share if you want. I have like 3 of them, which are amazing. So this idea of like being conscious in the day, but also in the night, and learning to move around like different realms through dreaming. So they actually have a lot of good exercise. And like 5 nights ago, I had my first success. So I was dreaming, and I dreamed that I was with my partner, and I realized that I was dreaming. So I said, I wanna know how he looks to the world. So I kind of jumped into his own head and looked through his eyes. It lasted like for 3 seconds or 4, but it was really amazing. So I guess it's like, I think it's very necessary for us to start like going and opening these kind of like ways of, receiving information there. I know people that dream and kind of actually go and learn with people, or do kind of like healing services through the dreams to other people. So for me, it's really, really interesting to try to open that way, and expands our possibilities of like shape shifting, understanding like other perspectives, and basically like accessing information of like other realms, because I feel like here everything is so normalized in a way that, at least me, I feel something like very caged. So dreams are a way of like really, really trying to like amplify the language, the registers. If anyone is interested, I have like 3 PDFs that are really good.
We can
that I can share.
Yeah, we should share those.
Yeah, if you want them, contact us either on the Precog Instagram or in the chat here. Yeah, let me know and we'll send them out for sure.
Yeah, sometimes dream kind of like digest our lives in a way that we don't have it. I don't have at least the vocabulary, but sometimes the images just like say everything. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And oh wait, go Gabby, go.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if you could talk a little bit about, so we're talking about dreams and how these kinds of ideas pop up in your dreams, but also a lot of the time in your videos and in your sculptures, the objects you use or the figures that appear are really archetypal or mythological. And then they also play with contemporary technology in a way that's like very specific or like feels really recognizable, like in the use of drones or in like the use of these kind of like idols that almost also look like transformers or something like this. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you're thinking about mythology and how technology plays a role, or like what kinds of myths are you trying to make or remake?
Yeah, I guess I think the main mythologies that I'm kind of looking at are this kind of like transference from like masculine energy to feminine energy. I think I was referring that before. So we have been living this kind of like patriarchal, utilitarian, invasive, extractive, very masculine way of like organizing the world. It's not like a gender thing. It's more like a energy, how it operates. And then I feel like we are kind of like slowly transcending into this like more feminine, intuitive, community-based, like not linear, not like so effective in a way. Maybe in this paradigm we won't advance that much, but we all will advance like together, I don't know. So I've been like trying to see like how these images of like feminine, or like maybe like feminine energy beings, not woman, can appear in the work. So in a way, everything is kind of like braided, or I don't know, like decorated. I have a lot of like braids. I've been using these kind of braids of like a radar to connect, to the earth. It's braiding of like past, future, and present, or like spirit and mind and body. And I feel like technology, in my way, like how I see the work is like my own ritual to exercise technology, is using technology or some kind of like technological objects that I can relate and subverse them, kind of like appropriate them and use them in another way. just to like contrast like all this kind of like, you know, vibration and electro smoke that we're getting all the time from like the phones and the Wi-Fi. So instead of like escaping them and becoming a hippie, like I'm now here, I think for me it's just interesting to like use the technology in another way, in a way from like my perspective or my life or my dreams. I don't know. So for instance, you're bringing an image. For example, like this is like a myth that I've been invented. So like this little Pre-Columbian vase is from my grandfather and it cries. For me, it's like the most amazing object in the world. I can't believe that like a vase is crying. And these vases were they were buried with their owners in the desert. And now all that desert is being extracted by, you know, like power plants, hydroelectric, mining, Chinese ports to bring goods from China. So they have a lot of like drones going up, like bioprospecting the lands. So I'm kind of like inventing this crying drone that in the video, the drone and the vase cry together. So it's like this cry of the land that before used to cry another thing, but now it's crying this like over extraction. So in a way, for example, this one on the image that comes later, this image that comes later, it's funny because I went to Bolivia to the residency, and the second day I went to like a miners fair. So they have like cars and different like companies, and I found this robot. And the girl and the boy, they were like in costumes working there. So I kind of like readjust what I saw in the fair in the video. So in the video, this woman is like this kind of new myth of a girl that is like a virgin with the rays, with the lasers. So these lasers also have been used in the protest in Hong Kong and in Chile. And they have like a very specific use. So it is like a strong feminine figure with the lasers that is kind of like trying to help this guy that is like trapped inside the robot, as a metaphor of being like trapped into our like right sides, right? Our right sides are the masculine, the one that are always working. So in the video, you know, the guy tell this girl like, please help me get out of my right side. And the girl is kind of like putting like a lot of different medicinal plants that I found in the market around this guy. So they're also like in kind of like invented myths. So what I see, and this is also, you know, this guy is called Darwin, which I feel is very kind of like relevant. Darwin and the little and the bird is called Malefico. I don't know how you say that in English.
Malefic?
Yeah, Malefic. So it's Darwin and Malefic. So this is very brutal because this guy is like a young worker. He's underage. He's the one that takes care of all the burnt animals, you know, like dehydrated animals, mutilated animals in the Refugio Bioeternal, which is a refugee for the burnt animals in the Amazon. And in a way, I was thinking that this guy is like a hero. You know, it's like this young guy that is taking care of completely invisibilized. So I was kind of like trying to invent in my mind with these green LED lights. It's kind of like sci-fi guardian that doesn't exist because the forest there is just being like excavated by, you know, like Evo Morales was selling those lands. Bolivia is like divided in two. So one is like Collas, which is like Evo Morales people in a way. And the other ones are like Guaranis. So Evo was starting to sell Guaranis land for planting cocaine. So the whole thing was devastated there, you know. So it's like I was desiring. It's like I wish there was that some kind of like guardians of these lands, but in a way they're like very few. They're very few, and I got the chance. You know, when I was there, I saw the 10th Indigenous March. So they were marching for 30 days to the main city to ask for Evo Morales to stop selling their lands. But these guys, they were marching. It was so hot that they were marching only in the nights. And I was there, and then I was in the city when they reached the city, and like they weren't even in the press. I don't know. It's like it's so sad. The whole city is like the whole forests are being burned for political reasons, and like these indigenous people are trying to protect them, but they're totally invisibilized, you know. So in a way, for me, it was like an invention of this myth of this like green expelling frequency guy that protects animals.
So
and also, And the last myth, I guess, is this myth of like the light of transparency, you know, which like everyone is kind of going to this kind of like ascension of like dealing with darkness and becoming like lighter. And also like the internet is huge in this, like all the transparency and democracy that in a way internet is bringing in this process, and like organizing people in the protests. And also, for example, the use of lasers in a way is interesting because they're like light weapons that in Chile and in Hong Kong, of course, they have been using like collectively. So for example, they're kind of blinding police or blinding drones, these like spying drones in the, I don't know if you guys have seen videos. Have you seen them? No? So there's like, I don't know, like 300 like lasers going into the drone, and then it's so much heat that the drone like collapse. So it's been like a collective weapon to turn down like, yeah, drones or helicopters or police.
I also
So
saw
in a
like
way,
hawks, like they can train birds to attack drones too.
yeah, I guess so. I guess so. I haven't seen them here though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the mix of the girl and the robot.
And this was
So
just
yeah,
like in a market, like you found this, like it was like a fair.
yeah, it was like a fair where they were selling like horses, tourist stuff. They were like selling cars, all this kind of stuff. And then I kind of like, also in the video, like this girl was wearing like an amazing snake costume. So I got like all the phones, and then I kind of like rearranged them for the video.
Yeah.
So I guess like a way of rearranging them is thinking about like new myths, or how can we even think about new myths, right? Even if they don't work, or I don't know, just trying to imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
New like areas that are being birthed.
Can you talk a little bit about your grandfather's museum? Because I feel like it's important for like all your work, and I don't know if we talk about that yet.
Yeah. So my grandfather was an architect, and then he was like the most curious person I ever met. So he overdrove like 60 years ago an area on the desert and fell in love with some beaches. So the next year he actually opened the road, and then he started going camping there for like until he died 3 years ago. So in like whatever walkable distance, he started like digging all the story of the place that haven't been studied by anyone. So he discovered like, for example, a 60 million year old whale head that ended being like a unique species in the world. It's the only head of that species. Then, for example, he discovered like indigenous artifacts, Spanish artifacts, all the garbage from the people from England, you know, the miners, contemporary garbage. For example, he also found the southern colony of green turtles that actually we used to defend that place where the bigger power core plants of all South America wanted to be built there. You kind of use the presence of the turtles to defend the place. But the most interesting thing that the whole museum is not a museum. It's like a crazy collection. So for example, like all the cabinets are discarded nets from the ocean. So the whole thing is organized with things from there. And also like not really important stuff, like little shells are being made in this like cosmological, like sacred geometry things. So it's not only a museum, but it's like a very subjective way of like organizing that place. It's like a very personal way, which I find like mind-blowing, because it's like, as I said before, everything is so normalized. How we see history, how we order like year
How we
by
see
year.
art also, like there's an expectation of what a museum looks like, and then also what the art inside is supposed to look like. So
Exactly. And I feel like when you find like this really, really personal and subjective ways of like organizing the cosmology, is really like, for me, it's really inspiring. And he has a lot of humor. Like he also like collects like teddy bears and a lot of like plastic masks. Like he didn't have like a good taste, or whatever kind of this is go and this not.
So everything is kind of like equalized to like
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we are in the huge process with my cousin, the one that made the music with me, to legalize the collection and actually build a public museum, because now is everything is from my grandmother, but when she dies, this cannot go into like private hands. So we're kind of like working in our free time to actually legalize it and make a real museum, like a public museum. For now, yes, like a crazy collection. But I like his humor. I like his like he's always going to the market, to the supermarket. You know, like I think like the plastic stuff says a lot of like contemporary culture. All the emojis, everything that is like on the internet, like goes really fast into like the plastic things. So like it's a very like kind of like up to date measurement of like our culture, right?
And so I feel like now is also probably a good time before we start asking a couple of other questions that came in to ask you about healing, which is sort of one of the reasons why we wanted to start this like experiment off with you as well, and sort of how you're thinking about healing, rituals of healing, brokenness, like whether things can be healed, how and whether art plays a role in that. Flo, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that question.
No.
Okay.
It's crazy because like, I don't know, like it's been like a long process, but it's kind of amazing for me to be talking about this because for many long time was something that was so like out of my life in a way. But when I was living in New York, I had the experience of like having my partner had like going through like cancer. And I went with him for the 4 years, and in that process, I think both of us got really like transformed after that. We tried everything, you know, like from mediums to like ayahuasca, gambo, Korean healers, like chemo, radiotherapy. It was crazy. So in that process, I feel like he was healing like his physical body, but he was also healing his emotional body and like all the trauma that he's been on as a child, and it has like a very long story. And I started healing my own stuff, you know, at the same time. And slowly, I was so like impressed by how these things work, all this like cleansing and like people like channeling information that really kind of like reads you as a book. And I don't know when or how, slowly I started like learning that because I was too curious to know how it works. And I feel like everyone can learn, you know? We all have that kind of like intuitive power of like, I don't know, like learn how to like command and clean ourselves. We hold like so much stuff and we don't have any tool in like regularly just to like get like bad energy out, or, you know, like be in contact with intuition. And yeah, slowly I learn, and now, for example, I learned how to like read and clean auras, which I never thought I was going to be able to do. And I do it for free. It's like my service. And it's amazing. It's like, it's really, I think like this whole like change of paradigm is just turning everyone into more like spiritual practices to be able to like, I don't know, focus in more like important stuff. There's so much trauma to heal, you know, as women and migrants, and like so many things that we all still like really need to like learn, and like also like invent new stuff. There's like everything is yet to be invented.
Well, it seems like
That's really inspiring.
as I was thinking about this a little bit, it seemed like that's really related to like the way you use that bleeding eye that you were talking about earlier in the Not Your Drone video. You know, it's like you have the bleeding eye, the parrot with the blind eye, the symbol, which also sort of looks like your eye. And then like it turns into these lasers. Like there's this kind of there's this sense that like the thing is a wound, and also like, I don't know, wound, which also allows for like a transformation, or like the turning of the wound into a symbol or something.
That's why I think like all these like the blind toucan or the blind humans like are this kind of like, I don't want to say monster, but it's like they're the private or the regular view, and they're forced to like have like the other view, like the important view, to see like beyond like consumerism or like prejudices. So I have this image of like two eyes with like a third eye, because like I teach, and one of my students is a ophthalmologist. He's like an eye doctor, and he has been the one of taking care of a lot of like injured people, and we have been talking a lot. He's always like pledging for like, so this is the blind toucan that I have to take care in Bolivia. Oh my God, it's so sad. So he was like a mask, you know, he will just move his head. It's only blind on one side, on the right side. So after that, I was thinking like this toucan is like a mask, a contemporary mask of this kind of like monster, you know, left by the fires, which like look at you from the right eye, which is like the capitalist, the masculine eye, like totally blind, and then the left side is like calm. So I've been using also this kind of like contemporary mask, or these figures that kind of they're being able to force like a new vision, right? Like the important vision, the vision where like we really need to build a system where we are all taking care. And it's interesting to like talk about healing and also taking care about these animals, because it was like a very amazing process of like, you know, like healing the wounds and like talking to them, trying to like, you know, give them food, and I don't know, it was very strong. So for example, in this watercolor that you were showing, so for example, it's like this girl going into this drone, flying and being guided by the blind toucan. So it is kind of like flying machine, this new like spirit animals that are coming from this like vigilance, you know, police thing, fires. So these machines are the ones that are actually like it's like, yeah, power animals that emerge from all this like catastrophe and predation that we are going through here.
Yeah.
Gabby, should we start with some of the questions?
Sure. I was just going to ask Patricia really quick if there's anything that she wanted to talk about that we like glossed over, if there are any other pictures that she wants me to show immediately.
No, let's keep with the questions and then maybe they will raise up. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So we had one question come in from Holly, which is, can you talk more about switching languages? This was from a little bit earlier. If you think it would be possible to code switch between capitalist or corporate language and dream language?
Huh. That's super interesting. I feel like for me, like there's like first a switch from like linear language to non-verbal or not obvious language. So it's like, it's more like from feeling, right? From emotion, from feeling, it's not like that obvious. So it's like more trying to make an image that kind of like excels some kind of hologram. I see like that, like everything has this kind of like holographic information that we are able to feel between each other, but not in the mind, but you feel it. So I guess like whatever configuration you make for an image or a sculpture, whatever, it will be like kind of like throwing that some kind of information like beyond our intellect. And for example, also there's like another register that I've been, another language that I've been trying to develop through healing, which is like channeling, for example, stones or plants, or trying to connect with animals, this kind of like emotional language that we haven't been trained to do it, but we can. Just trying to like to clean myself, to be more subtle, to really like be open to other kind of like communications. Let me put the light on, it's too late, 1 second. But see, I feel like whatever intention to kind of like capture any dream is very limited, you know? We just like, it's so impossible to just record that, but I guess it's like a little try, a little exercise from our limited like 2D watercolor.
And I think a follow-up question to that was, when you're, I guess, either educating about the new languages or using the new languages, how much is the responsibility of the community, and how much is it an individual kind of idea or relation?
It's an amazing question. In my case, it was more like a personal, I think it was like a personal cue, but I was at that time of that inquiries, I was living in New York, and one of my friends from Hunter, she was so open that she would just go like, she knew a lot of like mediums and shamans and curanderos and people who were with plants. And I was lucky to have her introduce me to the right people to study with. Because I had like that, I didn't have any kind of like relationship. It was very slow for finding these people, but like I was lucky to have her. But it was totally like a personal inquiry, you know, like I was, when I was a hunter, I was studying at the botanical garden because I was studying botanical illustration. And I was also working at the Natural History Museum in New York. And I remember this moment of like drawing a plant and saying like, this is not what I'm looking for. Like, this is like not making any justice to a plant and the spirit of each plant. So those questions arise, and then I kind of like talking with friends, she suggests me to do like, to try with like healing plants. And I think through plants, a lot of new information come, another new language. Like my work changed forever after, for example, my first ceremony of ayahuasca. It's like before and after that kind of experience. So I guess this change of register, or this kind of like opening my perception to like plants or more subtle things, it was because of that. Yeah, completely.
We have a question from Ash, who says, I'm curious about how Patricia decides what to give away or show to audiences and what to keep, especially since the work is heavily influenced by spiritual practice and internal personal experience.
Good question. It's crazy. I always think about this. It's like there's so many layers of the word that can be understood or not be understood. I don't know. I'm usually very open. Like for a long time, I didn't talk about spirituality at all because I was just like starting to do it, and I felt like it was such a taboo and like a not place to go in contemporary art. But I feel like now with everything that is happening, it's like even the arts is like more and more open to this kind of like healing stuff, because we all need, like, we really need to heal, and you know, like heal in a way that is not cliche or like yoga. It's like we need to heal like the whole society. And so it's like this space is opening, a lot of people are like working in this, like when at the beginning I was like very I didn't want to like be explicit, but I guess it kind of like started going into the work until a point that it couldn't like be hidden. But usually I'm very open. Like everything in my work comes from a personal experience. Everything, like that's the way I kind of like feel the right to use whatever. I only use drones because I dream with them, and okay, they go in, you know. So when people really ask me about like the corporate shirts and everything, I can really go deep into like telling like personal stuff, but in a way like they work both sides. They can also work through just like what a corporate shirt means, you know, beyond what that does mean to me. All of these things are so charged by plastic or technology, like they're so recognizable that in a way it's like that kind of information, and there's this other layer of like personal life, which I'm very open. Like if you guys ask, I can totally ask, but tell, but sometimes it's not even necessary. I think it's more like whatever enters to my life then get transformed into the work. So the whole work for me at least is like a personal ritual of like digesting life, which is very chaotic these days, like a little gesture of like trying to understand and to organize in a way, not organize but digest, put images, you know, because you see, like we see the newspaper, there's a lot of like regularized ways of ordering this information, but sometimes we as artists, we need to just digest it in our own language, right?
Yep. I have a question from Heidi, who wants to know if you could describe what an average day is like for you right now.
Right now?
Yeah.
So I'm indulging in my hippie now. I wake up early, I have a coffee, and I try to meditate for half an hour at least. I have different meditations that also I can share. They're mostly in Spanish, but I have like guided meditations to do like different stuff. I feel like the energy is so strong these days that I've been trying to really connect to, I don't know, to try to get info about how we should live or like the changes that we should do. And after that, I try to, like paint or answer emails or read. Then we have lunch with Marco. Then we work again. And then we go for a walk. And then we lit fire and burn some plants and talk. And we have also been like building community with the neighbors, which has been really, really interesting. Like today we went to buy a cake for the neighbor's birthday, and it's like this mix of people that would never come together, but now we're really tight. It's amazing. So it's like one neighbor, then one artist, one gardener, like everyone that is here, we just get together and share, which is beautiful. So it's a mix of like meditating, working, and building community. And also resting, like this year, I had the whole year before, like fully booked with trips. And I was like very excited, but at the same time, it's like, fuck, I need to have like a personal life. Like I have a home, I need like have a family, I have friends. It's like when I'm gonna be like a human, I'm just like, oh, come to the show. And then you had to come like 1 month before to install. And then you had to change all your life to do that, which is great. But I was feeling a bit like overwhelmed about that.
Well, can you talk, so before you were here, you were in New York, you opened up a show that's still here, but no one can go, but that was the show, and then you're working on something for London too? Or that's like, when is that gonna happen? Like,
yeah, when I opened the show in the Art Gallery in Queens, and then I traveled to Madrid, where I opened another solo show, which is called Madre Drone. Both of them are closed. And then I was supposed to leave today, actually. Yes, today I was supposed to leave to a residency in London because I'm gonna be working with the Welcome Collection. It's crazy because this institution have like a big, I don't know if you know, it's an institution dedicated to health and art in very experimental ways. And they have like a collection, it's like a very, of course, like problematic collection because they have like shamanic objects. They have like all these amazing botanical illustrations of like hallucinogenic plants from the South America. They have like Tibetan illustrations. They have like pre-Columbian vases with ears. They have like medical devices. So I'm gonna do like a show in 2021 about their South American collection, and they wanted to have like kind of like a decolonial counterpart from like an artistic view of the collection. So I was going to be there, like researching the files in order to actually come to Chile, make a piece, and then go and install it there. So actually, we have a meeting today. We are just working like from distance, but it's such a challenge to like how do you show or how do you like honor these objects inside a huge institution which kind of holds all these amazing objects, but they were like taken in such bad ways, like all the damage that all these like expeditions, Western expedition made in the Amazon and everywhere in a way.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then that show was going to also be shown as a counterpart in Madrid, but in there I proposed to work with El Museo Las Américas, which is a museum in Spain which holds like such an amazing collection of like Mayan manuscripts, like pre-Columbian vases, and like it's almost like hidden. Nobody knows about it. So I propose to like activate the museum through like inviting different artists that live in Spain that have a connection with South America, and actually like activate those objects doing like, I don't know, like tours or works, or having like the colonial way of showing those objects in the gallery. It's not a gallery, it's Casa Encendida. So even if we cannot actually use the actual objects, even have like a reproduction, but kind of reinvent a way of displaying them that is not in this kind of like colonial westernized way, which is a challenge. That's going to be my challenge until next year. So any thoughts are welcome.
I also have a follow-up question, which I'm going to tack on to a little bit, but which is, what resources are you looking at for news about reactions to the pandemic? And also, I think earlier at the very beginning of the conversation, we were sort of talking about how much political unrest there's been in Chile for months, not so talked about in American newspapers. But I was wondering, like, how the pandemic, like, what has it shifted in daily life in Chile, as far as you can tell? Because I think here we've had this experience of like mass like disruption of our everyday lives. Which I imagine would be really different in a situation where there were like, you know, months of political protests. Yeah.
Here is we have been going through these like super tough months because like when from October until here, like everything had been canceled even before the corona. At least me had canceled. I had canceled like all my classes, all my exhibitions, all my like projects. So a lot of people had to like close their business. People are not being able to work. So it's like 5 months of political unrest plus the coronavirus. Like this country is gonna collapse. But also here we have like a huge family support in a way, you know, like things are not as the US, are like here it's more like community based still because the government is very weak. And also like a lot of like the spirits are very high because of this change and unrest and people like in the streets. So it's very intense. And I know like people are really worried about like economic crisis, things even before now. And now it's like, yes, too much. So I guess in terms of what am I looking like, there's some kind of newspaper here. So people like the newspaper just lies. So there's like people on Instagram where you can actually really see what is happening. Like if you follow certain like hashtags in Instagram, like Chile despertó or like Nueva Constitución, there are like certain hashtags that you will get like everything. Like if you wanna, there for example there's a account called Radio Villa Francia, it's a radio. So there you have like all the information, like political abuse and stuff, what is happening like in seconds. So it's very interesting just to use this like Instagram thing to, yeah, to get like informed and not the newspapers. I don't know, it's confusing. It's like for one side, it's all this kind of like vigilance from China, kind of like starting to like sell the way of like vigilance and, you know, like health. And for the other, it's like all this amazing change of paradigm, and a lot of like indigenous people are sending messages. In Chile, there's a lot of like healers and groups that are kind of like doing like reading groups. So for example, I'm part of a reading group that actually starts tomorrow. And it's all about like learning how to channel information and to like build communities. And there's a lot of like activists that I'm in contact. So I have this like two versions of the future that actually they're kind of like intertwined. But yeah, it's not very like formal ways of, I do see democracy now a lot. Just to have like a sense of, because I live in the US like for 5 years and still have a lot of friends there, and I really care about like all the process. So I do see that too. Great. And then I have a sister that live in India, and I have friends in Bolivia. So it's more like, yeah, like really like one-to-one kind of like exchange of information. How do you guys inform yourself mainly? It's a broad question, but maybe somebody wants to answer. I don't know.
Yeah, if anybody wants to, let me know and I will unmute you.
Yeah, but if anyone wants to really follow what is happening in Chile, like you should follow, it's called Radio Villa Francia. I can give you then the link and get like really specific information about like, it's crazy. It's really unbelievable what is happening here. Yeah. I don't really know how the country will recover, but I'm sure it will change forever, which is amazing. Like, I don't know, I feel like the big changes come with the huge also like unrest and economic problems. I don't know, I feel like my life as an artist is so precarious that I feel like we are, as artists in our precariousness, are kind of like better prepared for this pandemic stuff. Because like, I don't know, at least for me, like there's some months that I make money, there's some months that I don't. It's been really crazy. So yeah.
Also, like there's like less structure in our life usually, so we don't expect things, and things don't work out all the time. You're like, oh, this is gonna happen then, and then it doesn't happen. But it's still
we kind of live in and we kind of live in quarantine. Like I feel like creative people are really like, we don't fear like going inside and being introspective, and you know, like we don't get bored in a way. But a lot of people like near that are kind of like more regular, like, you know, month paycheck or office are freaking out.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing to think that the half of the planet is going into this like introspection month. I feel like we can deal better with that because we're kind of like, for us, the questions are others as artists, and it's really interesting to see not artists but also like creative people, creators, researchers. It's been really interesting to see like the difference.
Heidi says that she can respond to your question about the news. So I'm gonna.
Oh, cool.
You're online, Heidi.
Oh, yeah, I think that was why I asked the question about how you organize your day too, because I think I do rely a lot on, like, I used to read the New York Times, but I don't think that it's that helpful. And I listen to Democracy Now! Sometimes. But yeah, I don't have like one. And I also have been trying to limit the amount of time I spend on my phone or on social media. So I'm just wondering what everybody else is doing. If you want to stay informed. But
And I've definitely like cut down on looking at the news just because it was giving me so much anxiety, and I felt like when you don't really have control over a situation, I mean, at least for me, and if I'm checking something constantly, like I'm not really moving forward with my day. So I mostly look at the Guardian, I say, and then sometimes the New York Times. But yeah, I started to limit, like I don't do it the first thing in the morning when I get up, because then if something is going on, it can really ruin my entire day. And so I try to like at least get up, have my coffee, get my day going, and then I'll like look into what's going on. And not right before I go to bed either. Those are the worst two times to like look at those sort of numbers, I think, for me.
Yeah, they are. I feel like, I don't know, like I also like, I have my these like threads of information. Like I listen a lot to podcasts, for example. People that are kind of like having this kind of like spiritual visions of what is happening, and for me that's a way of like dealing with all this in a new way. So I do follow some people that are really inspiring and kind of like give a lot of information that is not based in fear. You know, they're kind of living reality, but they have this like non-fear view of what is happening, which I think is really helpful. Because yeah, you can get lost in like social media and like
what is the podcast
like ruin
you
your
recommend?
day.
Which one?
Bueno, I have to. There's a guy that I follow for years, which is called Shaman Durek. I don't know if you guys know him.
Okay, I'll look him up.
Like, I have to give you advice before. Like, this guy is like, is from like Hollywood. Like, he's all about like selling stuff. So if you get to the podcast, which is amazing, I've followed him for the last like 3 years. Please, like, don't listen to the first 8 minutes. Like, don't listen to it, because it's all about like selling stuff. And I don't know, it's, if you can get like over his kind of like asshole tone, his information is amazing. I don't know what happened to me. Like, I listened to him and kind of like flowed into this kind of like well-being, and I've been like learning so much from him. Shaman Durek. So if you can get like over his tone, and he's kind of like some cheesy parts, he's really, really, really like real thing. Yeah, that's the main podcast that I've been listening to.
Great. Well, I think that's kind of, if unless there's anything else that anybody wants to add, I think this is our hour. But Patricia, if you want to talk about anything else, you're more than welcome to. We love it.
I'm so glad to like to connect and to like share. I don't know, we are like so isolated here in the farm that it's like amazing just to like share with everyone. I wish we have like time to listen to everyone, but I will join next Thursday. And yeah, let's keep the conversation. It's amazing how like how digital our communities and how can we like get together. It's amazing. So thank you. And thank you for listening. I
Yes.
hope it was like informative.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we'll definitely
Yeah,
check out those PDFs. And also, if is all of are your videos on your website? I wish it's like I wish that everyone got to see as much of it as we have at this point because it's so great. But
like, if anyone wants to watch the videos, we can share the files.
Okay,
I haven't updated my website in like 1 year, but yeah, I can share the files for sure.
Okay, great, cool.
Yeah, if you guys are dreaming or want to talk about that, like let's keep the conversation going. Finally we have time. So
Yeah.
Nothing but time these days. Yeah.
That's right.
Let's enjoy that in the middle of the fear and in uncertainty. It's crazy.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Ciao.
Thank you, everyone else.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll be back next Thursday. Time TBD.